Hello, my name is Prathamesh Bor-Kothoki, and I am back with another season of Bor-Kothoki. I am starting this podcast after a very long time, and what a way to start this season. I have a friend between whom we have a personal inside joke that we call ourselves a spelling mistake of each other. We think very alike, and although it's not the same way of thinking, but we think quite alike. And before I introduce uh, him to you, let me say that his name is Prathamesh Krisang, and he has been dabbling with many other things. I first came to know him as a filmmaker. Then I came to know that he also is into marketing. Then I found him interested in behavioral sciences. He has multiple personalities, and today we are going to know more about him. So, Prathamesh, welcome to Bor-Kothoki.
Thank you, Pramadesh. It is an honor to be here with you, and especially the conversations that we have been having for the last how many years? 3-4 years probably, and talking about philosophy, business, and everything in between. So yeah, it is fun to be here.
Let's begin with the first question. Introduce yourself without telling your name or where you are coming from. Just tell me how you spend your day.
Okay. So I have a rule of waking up, which is I don't wake up with an alarm. So I wake up whenever my eyes open. So that's how my day begins. And every single day, I try to do something that could move the needle forward for me. So the first half of my every single day goes in figuring out what is the highest impact action that I should do, and I only focus that entire day on doing one or two tasks, which brings the most output, and then I end my day. And then I retire, and I just got married, so I have to retire after 6. So yeah, that's how I spend my day. Someone who is always trying to question first and then do next, something on those lines. Yeah. So, not very deep, to be honest. I have been fascinated by poetry because I'm surrounded by poets. And almost like every single aspect of every single circle or group that I am a part of, there is at least one poet that I know. And somehow, people who are poets tend to resonate more with me, and I tend to resonate more with them. That is pretty, fascinating, because I myself have never delved into poetry much. There is one poetry that I personally kind of feel very connected to. That is "If" by Rudyard Kipling. I'm not sure if you have read it. So if is that is one of the poems that I read it once and it stayed with me for a very long time. And the other is the poem about Chithi by Harivansh Rai Bachchan, I guess. I think he wrote it. It's लहरों से डर कर नौका पार नहीं होती, कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती. Yeah. So the name is कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती. That is another poem that I personally connect a lot with. These are the two poems that I know of that I connect with. But apart from that, the relationship is not that deep. Oh, by the way, I mean, there is another connection. I have a friend who started Nazma, right? Nazma. So he started an Instagram page about Nazma, and he pushed me to write a bunch of Nazma based on whatever. Like I actually tried to write some. I just remembered while I'm right now. Until this point, I absolutely had forgotten about this Nazm. So I'm not even sure. They're very romantic kind of Nazma. Do you want me to read it? Okay. Let me just decide which one I want to say. Oh my god, I'm not even sure I should read them because this is like my breakup phase, right? And they were like very sad poetry. हाँ, this one is good. मोहब्बत तो हम आज भी उतनी ही करते हैं, फ़र्क सिर्फ इतना है कि तब तुमसे करते थे, आज अपने आप से करते हैं. That's so cheesy. I'm laughing at this right now. This is so embarrassing.
But that is the beauty of poetry, that even it is terrible, like you bring out whatever thoughts that are inside you and write it in paper.
Yeah. And there are more cringy ones which I don't even feel like reading. But I'm not sure if I should embarrass myself even more.
You decide whether you want
to. Should I? You decide if you want to keep or not. Okay. So let's see. So see, this is रोना तो कब का भूल चुके थे हम, फिर दुनियादारी ने हंसना भुला दिया. अब दर्द होता है तो सिर्फ सांस अटकती है, आंसू नहीं टपकते. मेरी रोने की हद तक जो तुमने मुझे रुला दिया. Oh my god, I don't even know that I'm capable of this. Wow. Now this is another one. Okay. Now in this one, the last line was added by my friend. He helped me with the right words because I did not even know those words exist. But like those words actually conveyed the emotion much more better, right? Which is मुझसे इश्क करना आसान नहीं है, कहा करती थी तुम. Okay. इस कमबख्त दिल की नादानी तो देखो कृसंग, उन्होंने इंतबा की थी, ये ललकार समझ बैठा. बागी का दिल है, फना तो होना ही था. So the meaning is, इंतबा is she had warned me, but I took it as a challenge, right? But my heart is a rebel, so it had to sacrifice, or whatever. It had to die, something like that. Fana to hona hi tha. Can you imagine? Like, you know me, right? Like, we have been talking. Can you imagine me writing this?
Closet poet, I cannot imagine you actually. Now that I know that you will write cringe poet.
Wow, even I did not. Actually, if cringe poetry had a genre, this would be the anthem.
When I was in class 10th and 9th, our English course suddenly changed. And best part was that except the literature part, you don't have to study anything. For the literature part, you have to study, and those were really tough, kind of like real literature stuff. But if you have to just look at the other part, there was some comprehension, 25 marks, where 20 marks was for grammar, and 25 marks was called main course book, for which we did not have to study at all. So everything will be in the question paper, and you have to write, like there will be a passage, and you have to be based on whatever you have been taught in the class. You have to write in the answer. You cannot mark anything. So that was the easy part, but I completely did not study the literature part at that time, and because all the poems were like 3 to 4 pages. Just looking at that, I completely.
My God.
There were some good things about the literature part also.
Wow.
That it taught us about rhyming, rhythm, and just looking at the poem, we could just understand what was the rhyming and rhythm, and it had everything, like even the meters and everything. But we were not that keen on reading that stuff.
Okay. I never. Yeah.
Meter is.
So I don't understand what is a meter. Like I've heard a lot
terms.
about meter in poetry,
Like,
but I don't know what it means.
The sound of the words. Okay, so like how many syllables are there?
Oh, okay.
So just recommend. Okay, so re is one syllable, ko is man is the third syllable. Okay, and in one line, what is the rhythm? So there, say this dash, this dash. So most of the classic poems are written in pentameter. So there is one this dash, this dash, like that. The sound comes like that, and every line will be written in 5 meters.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I am just saying
So
that.
let's say it's like blackjack, hacksack. So that's in 1 meter. Is that right?
I want to recommend. Okay, I is one syllable, want is another syllable, two is another syllable,
Okay.
and then re is another syllable, to is another. But men is another syllable. But if you just say, when I say I am opening up my mouth. Then one, I am closing it. So that's a thing. Two is again. Then re is my mouth is slightly closed. Ko again it's going up. Things like that. So I'm not sure if I am giving the exact pentameter definition of pentameter, because it will be difficult for me to express it. But the basic thing is that meter is, and there are different kinds of meter. So how you are actually using the sound of the words to convey the message.
Okay, understood. Interesting. Because I have heard this a lot when I was in filmmaking, right? And I used to get a lot of lyrics done for either songs or jingles or stuff like that. And in music and like working with musicians, working with lyricists is my weakest point as a director. It still is. And when I see the musician and the lyricist talking with each other, they talked about meter a lot. And I thought maybe that is something very important for music. And for the music to come out, probably. I'm not sure.
So, in case
but
of
I never kind of asked what a
generally,
meter is.
it is
I should
easier
have.
for a composer to create a music on what do you say, a poem than the other way around. Because when a poet writes something, he has already his music in his hand. So based on that, he
Yeah. Correct. But I have a friend. His name is Rohit Nikam, and I'm taking his name because this guy is a genius. So I was in One Last Question, right? The movie that I made with Adil Hussain. So Anurag Saikia, who is again today he is a famous musician in Bollywood. He did the music for my film as well, and he had the tune set for a song, but he had no lyrics. And the way we did was we sent the music to Rohit and we told him, this is the music, I want you to write the lyrics based on the tunes, right? And he wrote it based on the tunes. And it was genius. I mean, the way he came up with the lyrics. You can hear the song Chalte Chalte, One Last Question on YouTube. So that entire song, the music was first decided first and the lyrics was then come up based on the tunes.
It happens like that.
That
only
was genius. I don't know how he did it. I still don't know. But
musicians also work in a certain way. So they have like a scratch. They work with the rough, what do you say, the rough draft of lyrics. So sometimes they will work with a certain kind of lyrics, and later the lyricist might have a new song to go with the music. No, the lyricists generally don't have.
but even working with the draft lyrics is fine. Working, just coming up with a tune and then telling the lyricist to come up with the lyrics.
Use a draft lyrics to compose the music.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but what I'm trying to say is, in this case, Anurag just came up with a tune. That's all. And he sent it to Rohit, and Rohit came up with lyrics based on the tunes.
That is the importance of meter. That is,
which is crazy.
Both of them understand that. So
that's a lot of genius at work. Yeah, amazing. So yeah, interesting.
My poetries are even
You tell me,
worse
like, how
than
have you written poetries? I would like to hear something.
Okay, so I started writing.
So make me look good then by telling your terrible
back
poetry.
In, say 2009. So there was a blog called Bamboo Lounge. So no one was at first writing. So I started writing those cringe poetry, which was absolute nonsense.
Okay.
So, and every day when you are writing the nonsense, and people start to think that how can someone be so capable of writing so much of nonsense? So what happened was that people started writing, publishing their poems, which they thought was not so good to be published. So, but it
People
turned
got
out that
inspired by a nonsense.
Gradually, many good poets started. I think. I remember there was one poet called Dupul Mitra. He is from Bangladesh. He also contributed, and now he is a famous poet in Bangladesh. He has written 10 to 15 books on poetry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is also actually a very good side effect of publishing your work, no matter how it is, because then others look at it, they see, oh, this is so terrible, and he still had the courage to publish it. I should also publish my work, because that's at least better than this, right? So it'll at least inspire somebody, like saying but to be honest, like I have just started publishing on YouTube, and to some extent that inspiration has come to me as well, right? I saw so many YouTube videos about creating content and stuff like that, and they were terrible. The kind of advice they used to give was so generic, and absolutely it had no impact on me, or it did not touch me really. And it's such terrible content that inspired me to start creating. Like, I have something at least better to say, so I should start publishing.
I used to say to my friends, like,
so I thank them.
Two kinds of books. One is completely trash, and one is like real good books. So the real good books inspire you to write better, and the trash would inspire you to at least I can write better to start somewhere.
Start writing. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Yeah, a very good point. And in fact, I'll give you another example from food, which resonates with me, which is similar to this. Do you know khajur, the dates, right? So when I was a child, I used to eat dates that were available in our village. Okay, and once my dad came down from the town, like from Pune to back to the village, and he brought. It was Eid. It was during this time only, Eid, and he brought one of the most tastiest dates I have ever tasted, which melted in your mouth. And I tasted that date, I ate it, and since then I have never touched any other kind of date, right? It's like that. Like, you need to know how bad something could be and how good something could be, right? And that is how you develop a taste, right? By knowing this is bad and this is good, right? Because let's say I have had only the good dates, and I never had experience of the bad dates, then I wouldn't be able to create an opinion on what does a good date taste like, what does a good date taste like, right? So I found that
it reminds me of biryani. So
I mean, apparently it's true in content
so
as
many
well.
different kinds
I
of
just
biryani.
realized it while talking with you.
And after a while, I started filtering out where I will not be eating biryani. So there are places which are dedicated to biryani, like they are called Biryani King or something like that. But their biryani is terrible. And I have had biryani, like street side biryani. Like, I don't know, it's in Mumbai and Pune or like that. It's called Muradabadi biryani, Delhi biryani, things like that. So from wherever they came, they write it their biryani as Muradabadi biryani, Delhi biryani.
Yeah.
The kinds
Hyderabadi,
of biryani that don't
Lucknowi.
even exist. But they are tastier than the ones who actually say that they specialize in biryani.
Yeah.
So, I have had a very good kind of biryani. So there are places where the mutton melts as soon as you put into your mouth. It doesn't feel like flesh. Like it just melts. So, yeah.
Yeah, and especially mutton is very sensitive to this. I don't eat anymore. I left it about 15 years ago, but I remember the range of the spectrum of I know this is not about poetry, but maybe we can connect it somehow. In mutton also you can see the spectrum of chewiness versus the melting, and it's a huge range that you have. In chicken you don't find it that much, but in mutton definitely, like, it's very sensitive. You have to be just right.
Actually, that's
it has to be just right.
Analogy for
Even the
food.
level to which you cook it, and how you marinate it and
from
everything.
poetry to food, but it is a great analogy. Yeah.
That is poetry, right? When you use something else to say something else. Yeah. So, in fact, I have been thinking about this. Like, how do you develop taste in things? Not just taste in terms of food, but because now that AI has come in, right? And let's say you tried generating poetry through ChatGPT recently. I saw your post on LinkedIn, and you said that you did some tweaking in the prompt to make sure that the poetry came out well. Now, because you have a taste in poetry, you knew what to say in the prompt. But if I do that, I won't have any idea what to tell ChatGPT on how to improve the poetry. I can just say, can you improve this? That's all. Without knowing if it needs any improvement or not. And that is where, developing that taste has become so important. And I have been thinking, how do you develop taste? One point that you said really clicked with me, which is see something that is terrible, like read terrible books and read amazing books. And when you look at the kind of extremity of the rubbish as well as the gold, then you start developing a taste for it, because now you start identifying what is gold and what is rubbish. So I found that very interesting. But how do you, let's take poetry as an example. How do you develop a taste in good poetry?
That is only a starting point. So when you see that, okay, this is something, and this is something that is resonating with me. So why is it resonating? So everything has a science, I believe, like even art. So take it any form of art, there is a structure, right? Whether it's in music, whether it's in painting, everything has a structure. And if you do it in the structure, and if you understand the grammar,
storytelling,
and then you create something, it will be a good work. And that is where formal education comes. And when I say formal education, I don't mean that I need to have a degree or something like that. But when I am reading good books or consuming good content, then it will generally evoke an interest. So I will be keen to learn how it is done. So yes.
Do you mean deliberate education?
Yes.
Where
so it's like
you find your curiosity and then you deliberately go deeper into the rabbit hole.
When I started getting interested in poetry, I first looked into YouTube, and I found some real hidden gems. So there is a young boy who is a young professor in Oxford, and he gives what they say, lessons on close reading of poetry, and I found that very interesting. So close reading is something that most poetry we see that how to interpret it, right? So when we are interpreting a poem, we generally try to look at what is the background and what is when it was written and things like that. we try to find correlation with the surroundings and everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the point he tries to make is that
The
poetry is
context
not a
of the
rhythm
poetry.
that has to be
Okay.
solved. So we don't need. I think we have to find if that poem is good and what it is trying to do by closely watching out the words, the kind of words that were used, the then everything, the rhyming, then the rhythm, then the meter and everything, and the choice of the words. So, if we, when we read a poem, then there are certain words
Okay.
that are interconnected. So, when we do that relationship, we interpret
Okay.
it as an individual poem,
So then,
without
like,
thinking what was going inside the mind, because most of the interpretation happens by assuming. But when we do close reading, we analyze it in a better way as a individual poem. Not close reading.
right.
Yeah.
But why is it called closed reading?
Yeah, like you are reading between the
Close
words,
reading.
between the
Oh.
lines.
Okay, which is like carefully
So
reading
you are
the poem.
carefully, like it's like a forensic of
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's more like analyzing the poetry, but it's like
Understood.
It is
It's more like analyzing the
done,
poetry.
With looking at poems as individual. Research. Not going on what was the poet thinking at that point, but
Oh, okay. Okay. So then, but you don't go into the background of the poem, right? Like where it was written, when it was written, in what context it was written. You don't go into that, right? You just look at the poem by itself and then analyze that poetry, regardless of who has written it.
yes.
Like just
Okay,
looking
so
into the
recently
craft of
I,
poetry and nothing
read
else.
poetry, and I tried using
Is that right?
Okay. Philosophy there. So there was a poem which was like the dedication to the poetry. So it was like a romantic kind of towards the poem only. But if you read it carefully, it says something that is deeper than poems also, because the words that were chosen, like it is like words that were
Okay.
the illuminance that
This is also something.
that comes from deep inside the seabeds.
Okay.
So, the ocean are very deep, and it's as deep as like even light cannot go to the sea, up to the seabeds. But from there, it is coming up to the surface level,
Yeah.
and people are
Yeah.
like appreciating it. But it starts, then suddenly takes a turn, and then it talks about the peacock. I'm just giving him. I'm not reading the entire poem to you. I'm just giving it. It talks about the peacock and says that everyone knows about the beauty. And
Yeah.
somehow you feel that the poet is trying to make that there are some people who are much more talented, and they have to have real talent, and they struggle really hard to shine. Why there are some people who are privileged, even with this like normal beauty, they are seen as beautiful. So, and it turned around that the poet is a black poet, and he is very respected. So it was, the context was like much I did not know previously. It is only when I googled that and I came to know that.
Wow, this is also one thing I find very fascinating
like,
about poetry is
well, like,
the same poem can have as many interpretations as there are readers, right? Yeah, but even with movies, there is still a limitation on interpretation. Or let's say with an essay or a documentary or a movie, there is still a lot of common. Let's say both of us watch a movie and come out. We still have like at least 70 to 80% common ground when it comes to how we felt about the movie.
Sorry to
right? So it's more like a group
I feel that
experience when you think of a movie.
Based on your state of
but
mind,
a poetry,
like, you still will just look at the movie in a different manner.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Bhagavad Gita is a poetry, right? In a way. But if you look at all the interpretations and the number of books that have come out on the commentary of Bhagavad Gita, there are as many interpretations as there are books and as there are people who have read it, read the Bhagavad Gita. So, but take Mahabharat serial, right, that came out. The range of different interpretations of that serial is not that broad as compared to the range of interpretation of Bhagavad Gita as a poetry itself. So that's why I feel like poetry, because I also feel that in fact, I have recorded another episode of poetry with one of my other friends who is also a poet, Adil Latif. And what we were talking about is when I'm trying to convey my emotions, regular language is limited. Sometimes like you can't use your regular words or language to convey what you're feeling, let's say, or what you're trying to say. Poetry is like a high definition format, HD format, for the same communication, where something that you were not able to communicate in a regular essay format or like a 10,000 words essay, maybe a 1-page poetry can convey much more powerfully, like compressing all that you want to say or convey at an emotional level and stuff like that. So this is what I feel is the difference between just regular expression of language versus the expression of the same thing in form of a poetry. It's like a high definition, high potency capsule of expression. That is what, and that is why it also is prone to much more broader spectrum of interpretations compared to just regular language.
Like original form of
plain
expression.
language.
If you just look at the written history of poetry, so first it started with the epics. Those and some people even claim that it is 24 or 1,000 old. The Vedas. So just the span of work that has been done in poetry is very huge. So there has been a lot of work done in poetry, first of all, and then poetry has evolved over times in different ways. There are different kinds of poetry. There are different kinds of poetry, and it has been immense amount of work has been done. And regarding other like, you can say that essays are very restricted because they are not in a way that artistic form. But if you just look at the kind of movies, I will just give you one example of one movie, Tamasha. Have you seen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I watched it on the first day of release.
Yes, and that's one of my favorite movies, and a lot of my friends.
Very different ideas, and although most of the people in the hall did not like it, but I liked it somehow. And the next day I was just walking around, and a few friends said, let's go and watch this movie. And I said, I already watched it, but don't worry, we will pay for your ticket. And they pulled me in. And that day, I think that I saw a different movie. So when it happened, I thought that let me go back on the third day. It was another movie for that is the reason you are saying poetic, because
because the movie itself is so poetic.
It is invoking different kinds of emotion. If you are just closely watching it, then you are feeling that it is poetic. But it is a form of movie.
No. If you look at Tamasha, let's take Tamasha specifically. So Imtiaz Ali has used poetry as a way to thread together the entire story. So there is a play happening within the play, within the movie, right? And that entire play is communicated in form of a poetry. It is not like straight communication. So I think it is that source of, and so it is very clear that, I mean, this is what I feel, that Imtiaz was very, very inspired by, or his DNA of the entire story for Tamasha came from poetry, or it came from the way he wrote it, right? Because there is so much, like if you look at the entire movie, there is so much poetry in it. That at every single scene, like take the initial dialogue, right? Jahan pe like Deepika Padukone and Ranbir Kapoor meet, and then they have this entire dialogue of dawn and all, right? So it is also poetry in a way. If you listen, if you write it down, you will see that it's arranged in the structure is like a poetry of those dialogues. A lot of dialogues itself are poetry. Then this guy, the old man who is a storyteller in his village, he is also explaining everything as a poetry, right? So Tamasha is, I mean, it's one of those all-time classics for me, but when I'm talking to you right now, I start realizing that the amount of poetry Tamasha has in it is extremely dense compared to a regular movie.
In case of movies, I will just give you another example. Have you heard about the book Interpreter of Melodies by Jhumpala? Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a very well-known book.
No.
So when I first read the book, I did not like it. So I just thought that what kind of book is that? And after say 10 years, I just somehow someone said that it's a very good book, and I said I read the book and I did not like it. And she's replied me back, why don't you go back and read it again? Trust me, it was a very good book. And I, after reading the book, I replied her that actually you are right.
Okay.
After 10 years when I am reading it, this book has a different meaning. Yeah, so...
Yeah. I get it. So yeah, I mean, what you're trying to say is that, like, our context in which we
The only difference
experience
I
that
think,
poetry or
only
book
difference
or
I think
movie
that poetry
also affects our
and
interpretation.
prose
Right?
has is that poetry is very
Yeah.
restricted,
I agree with that.
and within one poem you have to have certain rules. Like you might have use different forms for different poems, but within one poem you have to use one rule.
Yeah. Once you decide the constraint, you have to stick with it. Same with music, right? Like, there is something called as metronome in music, or beats per minute. So basically, once you decide the tempo of the music track, like the frequency at which the beat comes in, it's like tick tick. If you listen to a musician make music, the underlying, the most foundational layer of that music track is a metronome, which is a beat that keeps coming at a very specific duration, and that's called as beats per minute. So you can have tick 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 tick, which could be, let's say, 120 beats per minute, or you could have tick tick tick, which is like, let's say, 30 beats per minute, and that decides how the music pace will be, how everything will be layered on top of it, and the music has to stick to that beats, that BPM.
Also, like the genre and or in classical
stay consistent and make sure that it is the same song, right? So yeah. So I'm not sure, like, I'm sure there must be some genius musician who broke this rule as well.
Yes,
but I'm not so well versed into this. I just know that this is how most music is made.
Hip hop, you have to stick to hip hop. Or if you are doing a classical music, you have to. So, and even if you are doing fusion, it should not be a confusion.
That's a good one. Did you pick that from somewhere, or did you just come up with it? That's a good one. Yeah, that's true. It's very few people can do fusion without making it confusion. Nice. I hope there should be some fusion band that names itself Con-Fusion. That's a good band name. Confusion.
So
Confusion. That's a good band name. Somebody should name it.
Current project, that is permissionless creators. Would you like to share something about it? Permissionless creators. Would you like to share something about it?
Permissionless creator mostly started from my own frustration. Frustrations were a few. First of all, since the beginning of my career, it's been about 14-15 years, I have been creating a lot of content and publishing it on different platforms. So over time, the platforms changed. I changed where I publish, and it brought a lot of opportunities for me. For example, us being connected today is a result of me creating content. You discovered me because I made that movie, and then we got connected, and then I kept posting on LinkedIn, and then you commented, and then eventually we started talking in the DMs, and eventually we started talking on the call, right? So this has played out multiple times with a lot of my friends. A lot of my friends today are the ones I found on internet. People who believe in what I believe and resonate with me. And I have built a very small, tight community of my people. And when I talk with people, others, especially let's say my team at Magic Leaf, which is one of my companies, they really don't understand the importance of publishing your thoughts online. What we are doing is we are playing the great online game. And the currency of this game is your ideas. The more ideas you contribute to the game, the more trust coins, reputation coins the game gives back to you. And the more you kind of gain those points, you can later convert that into cash. So what people don't understand is the power of just sharing your thoughts in whatever format. You can do a podcast, you can write a LinkedIn post, you can write a blog, you can make a video, you can make a reel. It doesn't matter the format in which you are sharing your thoughts. But sharing your ideas, sharing your thoughts is an extremely high leverage action. And when you start doing that, what you do is you start developing leverage for your life, personal leverage. What do I mean by that? You build a network that brings a lot of opportunities to you. Because you have a lot of clarity in your thoughts. You develop the skill of persuasion. You start learning how to persuade people through language, right? And you build a personal brand. So there are like infinite number of leverage you start developing. And when you start being in that position, you start becoming permissionless, right? Which is, you don't need anybody's permission to live the life the way you want. Because now you have gained so much leverage, other people are willing to bend over backwards to accommodate you, because you have so much value to add, and all they care about is the value that you can add. And your clarity, your network, your opportunities, all of them come together to lift you up in the overall game, the great online game you're playing. And why is playing this game so important? Because this game directly affects your life offline, right? Because my life today is affected entirely because of this great online game. I'm able to make whatever money, or live a peaceful life, not be very pressured about what am I going to do tomorrow. Let's say if something happens today in terms of finances, I know exactly how I'm going to get back up and start something else if something happens to what I'm doing right now. So it gives you a certain level of fearlessness. You become permissionless, and you build a lot of leverage by sharing your thoughts online. And through this project, I just want to encourage everybody in my network and outside my network to start creating. So I've started making a few YouTube videos. I have made a small community called as Permissionless Creators, where I'm helping a few people make content and publish it consistently. And there is a very unique method in which I do it compared to how others do it. And I won't be able to brush through the entire method right now because the time is limited. But the idea is to create your content in such a way that it keeps compounding over time. Because the way we create content today is you create a content, you post it on the internet. It has a life of 24 to 48 hours. And then it is lost for eternity. And the way I have developed a system is, with every single piece of content, your reputation and everything you build keeps compounding on top of each other. And that builds a huge... that creates a lot of motivation for you to keep creating and keep publishing. So it's a very different mindset. I'll be developing a program for this, probably a workshop or a challenge or a course, I'm not sure. And teach this system or teach this method. You are also kind of part of the group, I know. So I would like you to give me some feedback on how you found the whole experience so far.
First of all, I would like to say that I really found this concept fascinating. I don't have much friend who I meet offline. Most of my friends are someone who I know online. It began with Orkut. Although I was in Yahoo and I did not make that many friends during Yahoo, so it was mostly connecting with photographers. There was one Yahoo's for I think it was Flickr. Yeah, Flickr was the name. Yeah. So it was image posting website by Yahoo, and there I made quite a lot of photographer friends, and they are still connected with me. That's the best thing about that. So even after 25 years.
Nice.
So then came Orkut. It was completely different thing from Yahoo, and it allowed me to express.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of new friends during that time. Someone with whom I can connect. Facebook was initially very complicated, and very soon it took the concept of Orkut, so most of the friends were like from Orkut only. So Facebook did not add any more friends. But around that time, Twitter was there. Twitter, I came to know a lot of friends. Although Twitter nowadays is a very toxic place, but at that time, Twitter was very interesting. It was a place for intellectuals. You can say. So, and while I was in Twitter, I was also in doing blogging. And I came to know a lot of bloggers, and those were actual creators.
Yeah.
And they were writing about different things. Someone was writing about anything they like. Someone was just writing about recipes. Someone was writing essays. Someone was writing poetry. Someone was writing about philosophy. Everything was there.
Yeah.
So it created a different kind of network. So and very soon I started an online magazine called Friday, and through which actually I came to know you. That when you were making your movie, then you got in touch with Nayan, who is still our friend. And he said that he will promote your movie in Friday, and that is how I came to know you.
Yeah.
Also.
It's crazy because none of us have ever met in real life, and we are friends.
Yeah. Yeah, we are friends, and physically we have not met anyone. So I have friends from all over the world.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And very few I have met, say, after the pandemic, I met them in Zoom. And only, say, 5 to 10 people I have met physically.
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Of those.
In fact, the other podcast, Build with Buddies, that I'm doing with Adil, my friend, even I have not met him ever in real life, you know. We have been friends for almost 1.5 years now, and we decided to start a podcast, and we have just started recording. And it would be more difficult for me to find somebody in Pune, somebody like that in Pune. It's much easier to find people like us on the internet. Yeah, that is why, I mean, that's the whole inspiration for me with Permissionless Creator. My selfish desire behind this is to get more deeply connected with people like us, like who are always excited to create something. Now, when I say create, there are many ways. It's like building a business, building your character, creating content, many things, right? So,
Yeah, that is what I was saying, that everyone was creators only. Like it doesn't have to be someone doing in a creative field. But
exactly.
we are creating relationships. We are creating a network that might be useful in our business.
Yeah.
And we are also evolving as human beings, because things that we learn from these people really help
true.
us.
So I think I still have that question. What's your feedback on being part of Permissionless Creator?
Yeah. Coming to that question, I actually was very fascinated, because in Orkut I had one personality. In Facebook also it was more or less the same, but slightly toned down, because there were also
Family.
yeah, you can say there are family in Orkut as well, but there were all kinds of people who were like joining. Like it was like a boom at that time. So I did not want people to know too much about me, because I am basically a private person, even though I am very active in social media.
Yeah.
So in Twitter I had a different kind of personality, and in LinkedIn I had a different kind of personality. Like I strictly mention, I will maintain only professional person in LinkedIn, and in this Twitter I used to maintain that I'm a fun-loving person. Like even after 16 years, I still don't have 100 followers. Like 100 genuine followers, I am saying. There may be 150 or so which are like bots.
Yeah.
And the 100 followers are genuine followers, but they hardly log into Twitter. So that's
Yeah. Yeah, I'm loving YouTube, by the way,
Yeah.
because when I posted on Instagram, I have 2,500 followers or something like that. Most of them follow me by their own choice. Okay, it's not like I have bought those followers. When I posted on Instagram my posts about creating content and stuff like that, all of them flopped. They bombed. And when I posted them on YouTube, one video almost shot to like 1.1k. So 1.1k on YouTube is pretty good, especially for the long form video. The other video also worked out pretty well. So I'm just surprised how and why people are watching, but they are watching. So might as well create more for the platform. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. I find that YouTube is actually very SEO friendly.
Yeah.
But if you post in Instagram, it gets lost. If someone liked it, it may show it to someone else. But if for say 1 or 2 hours, no one liked it, it might not show. So
Yeah.
I think that the content is more likely to get lost in Instagram or other social media. But in YouTube, it stays forever. So sometimes a video that was posted 12 years ago might get views.
Yeah,
And
that's what I love about
if
YouTube.
a person likes it and they comment on it, it will get further views as well.
Yeah.
So YouTube works in a very interesting way, because
And YouTube is also very
SEO built into
compounding.
that.
Yeah, but it's also very compounding.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, let's say I have created this bank of content, and all of a sudden one piece goes viral.
Yeah.
Okay, and they like my video and they watch the entire thing. YouTube starts recommending a video I made 2 years ago.
No, that is what I am saying. Like
That's amazing.
YouTube is built for SEO, like built with SEO, like
Yeah.
so you don't have to use keywords or something like that, but just the title is if you put a great title, you will get likely to get hits, and if it's not working now, you don't have to worry.
Sometimes
कभी और चल जाएगा.
चले तो चांद तक, नहीं तो शाम तक.
It's not like that. चला तो चला, नहीं चला तो नहीं चला.
एक साल बाद चलेगा.
टाइम आएगा तो चल जाएगा.
Yeah, you know what? I had uploaded a video of, I had made educational video of how a slab is built. It was an animated video. Okay, so the bar bending that happens, the steel that goes into the slab, right? What is the structure of that steel? There is an animated video that I made. You can just search for slab bar bending, and you will slab bar bending katha or something like that. You will find that video. It has got more than 1.6 million hits. It is nothing. It is just simple animated video with Hindi explanation, and people are going crazy on that video. So I'll start uploading more stuff on that channel, because I have a bank of all those videos that I made 10 years ago, by the way. And I did not know this video has gotten so much views. I just randomly tried to check, okay, let's see what has happened with this video. And all of a sudden I see 1.6 million. I'm not sure what is the current views. Let me just check. I'll just tell you. Bar weddings.
I can understand.
Wow, it's 2 million. It's 2 million now. It's uploaded 11 years ago. It has 2 fucking million views. This is the power of creating and publishing, man.
Yeah,
it's so amazing.
That's what I am saying. Like, we have been working on with crafting for quite a long time. So we created videos when we started. Okay, those products are not made anymore, but those videos are still getting views. I don't know why people like it. And once someone suggested that we should delete it or at least make it private. So
no, don't do that. Keep it.
But I said, no, let it be there. Let people know that from where we started and where we are now. So, and also when people watch those videos, our other videos will also be recommended. So and
so crazy.
There
I
was
love
one
YouTube,
video
man.
that my brother made. It was made using his phone only. So he just made as a kind of like our workers were like cutting the bamboo. Then it was being processed, and it was such a simple video, but it got the maximum amount of views.
Dude, it's funny, man. It's really funny.
So which video will work and which video will not work, we never know. So
you just can't say. You just have to keep creating and publishing. That's all. You can't do anything else.
Yeah. So
wow.
okay,
Yeah.
Now I'm coming to one more point before I end.
Yeah.
we had so many different kinds of conversation. Like we never thought that we will talk so many useless things in this podcast.
Thank God we are not drinking any alcohol. Otherwise, imagine where it would go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like I spoke about poetry, and yeah, you also said a few things about poetry, and you spoke about content creation. Now, where do you see that poetry can be not just poetry, the rules of poetry or the way poetry is approached can help create better content?
Yeah, so I'll give you the recent example, the latest video that I uploaded right last week. I think I took some inspiration from poetry there because I wanted to tell people why they should stop consuming and start creating content. And I was trying to find an analogy for saying it. And the analogy was very simple. I said consuming content is like consuming food. Creating content is like shitting that, whatever you have digested. But what's happening is we are just consuming and not shitting. And that is creating all the problems. Like you have all the mental health problems because we are just consuming all the time and nothing is coming out. And that, I think, was something which comes to your mind when you kind of have a little bit poetic bent, I guess. You call it an analogy or a metaphor. I don't know what's the difference between both. But
even I find it difficult to differentiate it. So
yeah,
it's not.
So that is how. So what I learned is what poetry has. It is the power to make something visual, the power to make something which is more tangible, right? So let's say you compare a girl to a moon, right? Or the love that you have for your loved one to something like how the earth is essential for a tree, something like that. I don't know that was very bad. but the whole thing is when you are able to create content or explain things by using metaphors and make things visual and take these kind of different techniques from poetry into your content becomes much more powerful. Like there is much more punch because, and I'm telling you, like a lot of times when I'm talking with people, all of a sudden something like this pops out in my mind and I speak it, and even I am surprised by what I said. It is so good. Right? And I when I speak something like that, and people tend to remember it. I have had examples where people come back after 3 years and say, remember you said this at that time, it had a deep impression on me and I changed the way I do something, and I don't remember anything I said. So, but it has worked for them, so I'm happy about it. So yeah, I mean that is what I feel we can take from poetry in our content. It's very powerful. You tell me, like, what can we do? What do you think we can use from poetry?
Yeah, but I also agree with you. Like, it's called imagery, and it is a very important part of poetry. And if you don't have imagery, then there is no point having a poetry.
Yeah, in fact, it's one of the most important principles of hypnosis. Do you know how they get you into hypnosis? The visualization part is a highly important part in hypnosis. So the first rule is you have to be relaxed and focused. So there is a state of being relaxed and focused and tensed. So that is good for taking action. But if you want to go deep into your subconscious, then you have to be relaxed and focused, not tensed and focused. So that is the state that you need to be in. And how do you take somebody into that subconscious is through visualization. So you'll find this very common technique where people say you will see a door and you walk towards the door. I'll count from 10 to 0, and by the time I say 0, you open the door and then you tell me what you see in front of you, right? So that technique is a very popular technique in hypnosis, where you use this door as a way to enter into your subconscious, right? And you do tend to, like, people do tend to see some things that they could not see before, or could not even imagine that they would see it, right? And it is quite surprising what comes in front of you. So that is also a very important principle, to take you into that region where otherwise you would not go when you are in a conscious state of mind. So this visual helps you go deeper in that subconscious state.
I find it
That
quite
is otherwise
interesting
difficult.
actually, and since you mentioned it, a good poem is actually is different from a normal poem by how you present the imagery, and
Yeah.
a good imagery is takes the permission of the reader and then creates an impression. While
Wow,
a normal
interesting.
imagery is something that it just creates, it just tries to give vivid description of a particular scene where you don't have to imagine much.
Wow.
So
I love this, man. I mean, this is something new for me.
So
Like,
you first
when-
take the permission, then you
how do you take the permission? Can you explain that?
it is very difficult for me to explain in words, but it's like build up. Okay, so even in prose also, you first.
So, for example, I'll just give an example, and you tell me if that is considered as a permission. So, when Mahabharat war starts, right? So Sanjay is the one who is seeing it, and it is the narration of Sanjay that is recorded as the story of what is happening on the Kurukshetra. And this setup of Sanjay explaining what is happening on ground to, I guess, Dhritarashtra, right? Is that a way to get permission to the audience to go deeper into the visual? Would you say that could be a tool to do that?
Sanjay is more like a tool to tell the story. Like he's a narrator, more of a kind. Okay,
Right.
but when I say that it is you take the permission of a reader, I will give a very small example of say speeches. In speech, we generally use a hook, or in the writing also we just use a hook to start, and then from the hook we deliver it in the main content, and then we conclude it by summary. Like the hook is like taking the permission. A bad hook is just like
Got it.
attract you to the content, but the content may not deliver what the hook promised.
Yeah.
I will
Get
give
it.
you a
Get it.
very small example of an essay. Essays are generally boring, so I will give you an example of an essay. So it starts with the line that everyone in has met in his life that is highly talented and highly skilled, but when they were promoted, they failed miserably. And they have also met one person who was not so talented, not so skilled, but when they were promoted to the same position, they excelled in that position. So it's a great way to start and just say
Yeah.
what are the essential
That itself is
components
so interesting.
that are needed to be like a better administrator or better leader.
Yeah.
So it is first taking a permission, by giving a small scenario. So it's not just a hook, but it is like building a relationship with the reader.
Got it. Interesting.
So in poetry also, if you start in a way that people start to resonate in the first two lines.
So it is like the hook is like the door, right, through which you welcome people inside your poetry or inside your content. Yeah. So it's like most people don't focus on it. It's like you build walls, but you forgot to create the door in the wall. There's no way to go inside. That is how a hookless content piece looks like.
No, but most people think that hook is something to attract, but you might get attracted to a house, but using that analogy, you might get attracted to a house, but if there is no door, how will you enter into the house?
Yeah. See, I am becoming a poet now.
That is what see that.
But see, let's take this example, right? Just using this example makes the job of a hook so much more easy to explain. And you will always remember because it is visual, right? So your content is the house, but the hook is the door. And if you don't make the door, what's the point of making the house?
Yeah.
Right? How will you enter in? It's the same way. So that is how beautiful metaphors are and analogies are.
No,
I'm going to use more of these analogies.
No, it's not just analogies and hooks. Like just like I mentioned, it creates a setup. Like in the beginning of the essay, everyone has seen that kind of person, so everyone starts relating to it. It is not a hook. It's just like a beginning of a line that creates a setup. What you are going to expect. So that is what even in poetry, generally we don't have hooks, but the first two lines should be attractive enough. So
they should pull people inside.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but sometimes the last line is remembered much more than the first line.
So there is a Marathi poetry.
I just mentioned that was the last line of the poem. I have miles to go before I go to sleep. Right.
Yeah. Even Rudyard Kipling's "If," right? The last line is the most important. So the whole poetry is if this, if that, if this, if that, and if you are able to do all of this, then yours is the earth and everything in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son, right? So, but before that, you are not able to figure out where is this going, right? If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you're doing this, if you're doing that, if there are literally 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs of if, and the last two lines is what delivers the message. Like, if you are able to go through all of this, then the whole earth will be yours and everything in it. And more than that, you will be a man, right? So that is, I think poetry does that very well. Like the last line, like delivery on the last line. Even there is another one that gives me goosebumps. It's a Marathi poetry called as Kana by one of the legendary poets called as Kusumagraj. Now it's I'll not read it, but anybody who is a Marathi in the audience might know about this, because this is one of the most well-known poetries in this culture, Marathi culture, right? And the last line is, so it's about some, I don't remember, it's been a while I have read it. It's about a flood that has come and destroyed a house. Okay. And the last line is, I'll just read the last 3 lines, okay? पैसे नको सर जरा एकटेपणा वाटला मोडून पडला संसार तरी मोडला नाही कणा पाठीवरती हात ठेवून नुसते लढ म्हणा. So what it's like, even when I read it right now, it gives me goosebumps, right? So on the last 3 lines, what he's saying is, I don't need money. I just was feeling alone, right? My whole world is destroyed, but my spine is straight. Like, I'm still like standing straight. All you need to do, so he's conveying it to his sir. Okay, his sir is like his guru. He's saying, all I need from you is keep your hand on my back and tell me to fight, and that is enough. So those are the last 3 lines, but the entire poem, before that, you won't see that coming, those 3 lines. And that is what makes this whole poetry so legendary. ओळखलत का सर मला पावसात आला कोणी, कपडे होते करदमलेले, केसावरती पाणी, क्षणभर बसला नंतर हसला, बोलला वरती पाहून, गंगामाई पाहुणी आली, गेली घरट्यात राहून. माहेर वाशिन पोरीसारखी 4 भिंतीत नाचली, मोकळ्या हाती जाईल कशी, बायको मात्र वाचली. भिंत खचली, चूल विजली, होते नव्हते नेले, प्रसाद म्हणून पाण्यामध्ये पाणी थोडे ठेवले, पापण्यांमध्ये पाणी थोडे ठेवले. कारभारणीला येऊन संगेसर आता लढतो आहे, पडकी भिंत बांधतो आहे, चिखल गाळ काढतो आहे. खिशाकडे हात जाताच हसत हसत उठला, पैसे नको सर, जरा एकटेपणा वाटला, मोडून पडला संसार तरी मोडला नाही कणा, पाठीवरती हात ठेवून नुसते लढ म्हणा. So what he's trying to say is, he's trying to explain how the flood has destroyed his entire everything that he had built, right? And in the last line he's saying, I don't need money, I don't need anything, I just need you to tell me to fight. I just felt alone. I wanted to share this with you, and I want you to tell me to fight. That's all.
Yeah, it's just
It's
about
amazing.
asking for hope.
Yes, asking for courage, hope. It's amazing. It's one of my all-time favorite poems. When I read it, it just gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. So that also makes conclusion very important. So that people, because people remember only the last line.
In fact, I mean, this, you just gave me a big discovery, big epiphany. I have developed a lot of understanding on how to create hooks and how to deliver the value in the content, but the conclusion part has always been a struggle for me. Right? And all of a sudden I realized the best place to learn this is poems. So I never thought of it, right? I think I'll contemplate more on this now. I'll read more poetry just for this, just to learn how to conclude. Because I think poems conclude so beautifully that you can't do that so normally in essays. And if you see essays, what it does is it summarizes everything that you have read before. Now that's not a great conclusion. A great conclusion is something that gives you a punch at the end, and it's like it seals the deal, about what the message is.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think
call to
I'll study
outcome that
poetry.
you quite often mention.
Yeah, it's call to outcome. It could be, you could say that in marketing. I say that as call to outcome instead of call to action. So it's dude, like, you just inspired me to start studying poetry just for this, just to learn how to conclude.
Yeah, it's not just about reading poetry, but learning various kinds of
this is like close reading right now. Now I'll be doing close reading of poetry just to understand the conclusions. Yeah, great. Okay. So mission successful. Your podcast, this episode converted me into a poetry what do you say, appreciator or poetry fan.
That is the right word. Actually, I don't want everyone to become poets, but appreciate poetry and apply it in their daily lives, because we often fail to articulate what we are feeling. Not just feelings like love, sadness, or something like that, but even in corporate life, sometimes we have to speak out regarding what we are thinking about the particular issue that is being discussed in a meeting. We fail to ask the right questions. And if someone asks the right questions, we fail to answer the come up with the right reply.
Yeah. So what do you suggest? Like, what would you suggest me to start with in terms of poetry? The kind of poetries I like is the ones that are like, if by Rudyard Kipling or this Kana, I explained the meaning to you, right, of that. Or कोशिश करने वालों की कभी हार नहीं होती. That kind of poetry. So what would you suggest? Who would you suggest me? Which poet?
If you are an Indian, you cannot get rid of poetry because Bollywood has given us so many poems. If you just look at the songs only, and Gujral and is one of them who makes even nonsense sound good. Like if you just look at Lakdi Ki Kaati, from one line to the second line, it has no connection, but it's still you still love it. So I would not
imagine Gulzar is the guy who is.
I would just suggest you one small book, that is the prose book about poetry. I will say.
Okay, what is the name?
The title of the book is The Prose Book of Poetry. Okay, I will.
Okay.
The author, just let me check the author's name. Yeah, it's by Mary. A poetry handbook, a prose guide to understanding and writing poetry. So you don't have to write poetry, but just the understanding part. It's a small book, about 100 pages. So.
Okay, I'll definitely start here.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you can start with that. If I have been able to convert you.
Yes, I am converted. I'm going to start. Nice. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Okay, with this note, I would like to end this podcast, and I hope anyone who is listening found this podcast very helpful, or if not helpful, at least funny. And it perfectly makes sense of the title of the podcast, that is Bor-Kothoki, where we just speak. Okay, thank you. See you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.